We have a huge update coming out of Edmonton today after a huge Saturday night game against the Toronto Maple Leafs with an unfortunate incident happening in the second period. We'll get to all that and more today on Oilers Digest. But first, if you haven't already, make sure you hit that subscribe button as we are on the road to 2,500 subscribers. And we also had channel history this past Saturday night as after the Oilers Leafs game, I was joined by Darius Dominguez on Leafs Digest as there was a bit of a digest simulcast. We had a live stream after the game. I'd like to thank each of you who joined us after the game, and it was a very exciting opportunity. Again, history breaking for the channel, so I'd like to thank Darius for allowing me on to the Leafs Digest to, chat about the game afterwards, and it was lots of fun. Even though the Oilers lost that game in overtime, it was a very unexcusable loss. Still had lots of fun, but folks, huge news. Get me a nurse. Yes, Darnell Nurse was the unfortunate recipient of a hit coming from Ryan Reaves of the Toronto Maple Leafs, and we do have an update on Darnell Nurse as he missed the rest of that game with a supposed head injury. Elliot Friedman says this was after the game. No post-day update on, Darnell Nurse, but he was walking around and joking with trainers per Jack Michaels of the Oilers Radio Network. And it was nice to know that Ryan Reaves went towards the Edmonton room for a face-to-face apology during the third period, and we awaited the NHL's decision on the supplemental discipline, but Ryan Reaves did get a 5-game suspension. But Kris Knoblauch, his thoughts on it, he said obviously there was a big scare there when it happened on the ice, but since then he's progressed really well. He's doing as good as he can. We'll take our time and make sure that he's ready when he does return. Of course, with the head stuff nowadays in the NHL, taking lots of precautions to make sure that they don't rush him back from this in as much time as he needs. But we hope for Darnell Nurse to make a very speedy recovery, as the Oilers defensive core does need him very badly, folks. And then Daniel Nugent-Bowman of The Athletic says Kris Knoblauch told the assembled media in Montreal that Darnell Nurse will be out 5 to 10 days. He added that Victor Arvidsson remains sidelined with an injury, so this will be his third straight game that he missed, and the Oilers will go 11-7 for the third straight game, and Josh Brown makes his Edmonton debut at the Bell Center, but we'll get into that in just a bit. But it's unfortunate that Darnell Nurse goes down with this injury when he's playing, some of the best hockey that he's played in quite a long time next to Brett Kulak. So again, very unfortunate that this happened and very untimely for Darnell Nurse. But when can we expect to see him back? Of course, the timeline was 5 to 10 days. They have a back-to-back against Montreal in Ottawa tonight and tomorrow, and then they are in Minnesota Thursday night, and they are in Edmonton Thursday night, my apologies, and then they are at home to the New York Rangers before heading out to the Rocky Mountains. So you might expect to see Darnell Nurse back against the Rangers this Saturday, or they do have a bit of an extended break next week, and you might see him return in Utah next Friday. But again, very hopeful, speedy recovery to Darnell Nurse, and hopefully he rests up and he's back out there when he is ready. But folks, Brown's in town. Yes, Josh Brown was called up from the Bakersfield Condors yesterday afternoon. From the Oilers press release, this defenseman has played 12 games for the AHL's Condors this season with a pair of assists. As in there, 12 games played, no goals. Not expecting to, he's not a goal scorer, folks. 2 assists, 46 penalty minutes. Yes, he is quite the scrapper down in Bakersfield, and he is a +5 so far. In the summer when the Oilers did sign him, I wasn't too big of a fan of the signing, but no matter what the stats say, he might prove me wrong. It might be another Vincent Desharnais situation where you need a big, rugged defenseman to come up from the Bakersfield Condors and make a name for himself. Of course, some criticize the Oilers' lack of physicality, of answering the bell after the Ryan Reaves hit, and this might be the catalyst for them to become a much tougher team. Of course, they failed to score on that 5-minute power play after the Ryan Reaves match penalty, but to see some more, again, physicality. This might be even old school take on my end, but who knows? Josh Brown, despite the analytics saying he's not a very good hockey player, he might bring something else to the Edmonton Oilers. And that's something what Kris Knoblauch also thinks as well. He says he's been playing really well, contributing to their success, and he's been really physical. Obviously, he's a shutdown defenseman who takes up a lot of space, but also the physicality, and he's had some fights down there. So folks, the Oilers still undefeated when they do have a fight in a game this season. And could he add to that? Who knows? But let's take a look at the 11-7 lineup brought to you by Tony Brewer of Oilers TV. the forwards reading out: Ryan Nugent-Hopkins, Connor McDavid in, Zach Hyman, Vasily Podkolzin, Leon Draisaitl, and Corey Perry. And then the bottom five, mind you, since it is 11-7, Matthias Janmark, Adam Henrique, and Connor Brown, who had a stellar game in Toronto Saturday night. And then Jeff Skinner still in the doghouse when it comes to head coach Kris Knoblauch. Of course, you saw Skinner on the first line for multiple games there, but relegated back down to the fourth line in favor of Ryan Nugent-Hopkins. Of course, the seven defensemen for the Edmonton Oilers tonight, Matisse Ekholm and Evan Bouchard, who has faced a lot of flack, not just from the fan base, but from the media as well for that horrendous third period display. But hopefully he does have a bounce back game in him tonight. That's exactly what happened after the Vegas Golden Knights lost last week, and then he showed out again against the New York Islanders. And then Brett Kulak and Ty Emberson elevated up to the second pairing in favor of Darnell Nurse, and then Troy Stetcher and Travis Dermott makes out your third pairing, and then Josh Brown makes his debut for the Oilers, and then Calvin Pickard gets the start tonight. Of course, Calvin Pickard, his very first start came in this very building, the Bell Center, 10 years ago, so sort of a full circle moment for the goaltender, and you hopefully see him have a huge game tonight. As again, Stuart Skinner didn't have a very stellar game against the Toronto Maple Leafs, so a bit of a breather for him tonight. But when it comes to the opposition, folks, the Montreal Canadiens, they come into this one last in the Atlantic Division with only 6 wins, 10 losses, and 2 overtime losses, but they're only 5 points behind the third place Tampa Bay Lightning, with lots of hockey left to be played. Of course, Montreal coming into this one, a very young team, not a whole lot to prove, but to get their young guys more NHL experience. And we'll take a look at their lineup in just a second. But in their last 9 games, only 2 wins, but it's beneficial for them. In those 2 wins, they did score 5 goals, so for a bit of a run and gun team they seem to be. If they're not scoring, they're not winning. But just taking a look at their lineup, their first line: Uri Slafkovsky, Nick Suzuki, and Kirby Dach, followed by Alex Newhook, Jake Evans, and Cole Caulfield, Josh Anderson, Christian Dvorak, and Brendan Gallagher, and then Emil Heineman, Lucas Condotta, and Yoel Armia, who always seems to be in that Habs lineup. And then on the back end, they're a very young back end for the Montreal Canadiens: Caden Gooley, Mike Matheson, Lane Hudson, David Savard, and then Arbor Xhekaj and Jaden Struble. And then in net for them tonight, Sam Montembeault, coming into this one with a 5-8-1 record with a 3.09 goals against average and an 8.98 save percentage. So it should be a very evenly, or not so much evenly matched, but for the Oilers, it always seems to be a trap game for them when they do face a team that's extremely beatable. They always seem to make a way for the other team to get back into this one. But it all boils down to, if they do have a lead in the third period, they need to, keep their pedal to the metal, as they've been burnt in the last, I do believe, 4 out of their 5 games in the third period, just struggling to hold a lead. And you just need a bounce back game from every single one of the Oilers tonight. You need, 11-7. You need everyone to pitch in to the lineup. And again, should be a very winnable game, but crazier things have happened. The Bell Center seems to be a weird place for the Oilers in recent years. And for those wondering, how do I watch the game tonight? Yes, it is one of those weird Amazon Prime games tonight for Amazon Monday Night Hockey. So if you can't find it on TV, do not get frustrated. It is on the Prime streaming service. So let me know down in the comments, what do you think about the Josh Brown call-up? Would you have called anyone else up? A guy like Max Wanner, Philip Kemp? Very, very interesting. Lots of options down in Bakersfield, but I do think they brought up Josh Brown for the physicality portion. And what do you think about the lineup tonight? Do you think Jeff Skinner deserves to be on the fourth line over, a guy like Ryan Nugent-Hopkins? Would you make that switch? Personally, I would make that switch, but let me know down in the comments. Make sure to subscribe if you haven't already. Make sure you enjoy the game tonight. It's going to be a great one, and let's go Oilers. Have a great day. I'm Matt.